Hi, happy Sunday everybody. My name is Rainer and I'm living in Sweden. I'm a German-Swedish booktuber in Stockholm, Sweden, and in this video I'm going to tell you what I read last week and what are my plans for the next week, and maybe some other stuff from the bookish world or from the world outside that we all live in. So let's do this. Last week I went a couple of times to the gym, and I also made a trip to a small place in Sweden called Magnar, about 550 kilometers south of Stockholm. With my work, we had a teacher training there. It was a very fun day, it was a great day. And also I went on the train from Stockholm to a place called Hässleholm, and I had the opportunity to read on that train. So what I was reading is Cocoon by Zhang Yueran. I don't know how to pronounce that name. My Mandarin is very non-existent, unfortunately. And I also listened to an audiobook when I went to the gym, and that was The Maid by Nita Prose. So these two books I finished, and let's start with The Maid by Nita Prose. It is a Canadian novel, a Canadian mystery novel. Nita Prose is working for Simon & Schuster's Canadian branch in Toronto, Canada. And The Maid is a story about a maid, but also about a hotel, about the Regency Grand Hotel. And it is not really said where this Regency Grand is supposed to be, is supposed to exist. It doesn't exist. It's a fictitious hotel, but it is probably not Canada, but the United States, because at one point in the novel, there is a mention of that the banknotes that are handed over are green. The dollars are green, and Canadian dollars are of different colors, but American banknotes are always green. So it must be America, I guess. The maid is Molly Gray, who's a young woman, 25 years old. I think her granny has died about 8 months ago, and her granny was the pillar in her life. Now she's living alone. She's trying to live her life alone. She is somewhat different from other people. First I thought she is a little autistic, but I think that she lived so secluded that it not really gets obvious what kind of otherness she has and where it comes from. It doesn't matter anyway. She works as a maid, and she's very satisfied working as a maid. She works in a hotel called the Regency Grand. The hotel plays also a very important role. It's like a character. And one day Molly wants to clean a suit from Mr. Brown. And it appears Mr. Brown is a very important businessman. He stays in the hotel once a month and always for a whole week. But then she finds him dead in his bed. She becomes a suspect, and in the end, friends are reaching out for her help, and I won't reveal how this ends because obviously it's a thriller. Did I like it? I would say medium. It was a huge bestseller, and probably it sold millions of copies, not only in the English-speaking countries, but also all over the world. It is translated into 30 languages already. There will be a movie with Florence Pugh, British actress, in the leading role. But it is some kind of a feel-good thriller. Everybody will love the character of Molly, and that's why I thought, okay, it's not a very realistic thriller. This book is nominated for Best Novel at the Edgars, the Crime Association Writers of America's award that will be awarded on April 27th. I would give it like 3.5 out of 5, 3.5, not more, because it's not a real thriller. It's more like a feel-good thing, and it seems to be very unrealistic. Although, of course, Molly is very lovable. Well, I will probably say more in a single review about this book. The second book, I LOVE'd. I marveled at. I loved it from the beginning to the end. It's a book that you will never forget, I guess, when you have read it. And this is, as I said, Cocoon by Zhang Yueran from China. And this is a young author. She's born in 1983. Her book has sold I think 150,000 or 180,000 copies in China. She won the Best Asian Novel of the Prix Transfuge. She was nominated for Best Foreign Book Prize 2019. And I hope that she's also eligible, I'm not so sure, for the Booker in Translation, which will reveal its long list on Tuesday this week on the 14th of March. But what is this book about? It is about two characters which I mispronounce, definitely will mispronounce. A woman, and her name is Li Jiaqi, and a man whose name is, whose name is Cheng Gong. And I learned that, as in Japanese, the first name is the last name and the last name is the first name. So the family name here is Cheng, and Gong is the first name, and the same with Li Jiaqi. Jiaqi is her first name. And I got a little bit confused with the names in the course of this novel. These are two people who haven't met each other in years. They are like probably in their late 30s or early 40s, and they meet after a lot of years over 2 bottles of wine and tell themselves their life stories that are intertwined, life stories that have to do with the Chinese Cultural Revolution in the 1960s, when their grandfathers play a very important role. Both Cheng Gong's grandfather and Li Jiaqi's grandfather play a very important role in this novel. Cheng Gong's grandfather lies in a hospital in room 317, and he is in a vegetative state since 1967, so for 4 decades now, and he's lying there, he's like in a coma. Someone put a nail inside his brain and sort of immobilized him and makes him unable to do any reactions. He's getting fluid nutrition and everything is taken care of, but he lies in this bed. And the family of Cheng Gong wants to know why that happened. And this is a book about dysfunctional families, about the history of a country that has put its stamp on its people in a incredible way and in a horrible way. Very inhumane, I think it seems. Also, both of these people are one-child policy children. They were born in a time when China had ordered its citizens to have only one child, the so-called one-child policy. And Zhang Yueran writes this novel in such a beautiful language that not through the whole book, but at some of the prose that she is writing is so incredibly beautiful and tells so much about life, not only of the life of the people in this novel and about people's lives in China, but all over the world. Our natures were not fixed. Our talents could be taken away. Our virtue could be polluted. Anyone could become a completely different person. Someone you knew inside out could turn into a stranger. A horrifying thought, though. It seemed magical and heartwarming that I hadn't stopped loving him. Even with him completely transformed, my love hadn't been damaged at all. I was proud of my rock-solid love. Surely such enduring love would have its uses. I believed I would be able to do something for my father. It's not an easy read. It's a very sad read. As I said, it's about dysfunctional families, but it tells us so much, I think, about the younger history of China, seen from a new perspective, seen from a young generation of 30, 40-year-old people in China. On the blurb here, they call it hypnotic prose, and that's what it is at times. It's hypnotic prose that Zhang Yueran is writing here. It is also called, in some descriptions, the book is called a literary thriller, but that's absolutely rubbish, I think. It's called a literary thriller because there's this man, the old man, lying in the hospital with a nail in his, not with a nail in his head, but he had a nail inside his head, which immobilized him. But that doesn't make it a thriller. So I think it's a tragedy, it's a drama, it's a history, a novel about relationships between people, and I certainly will also have a single review about Cocoon by Zhang Yueran. I also very much like the cover, and the cover art is very beautiful. The typoscript is very beautiful, and in the end of the book, it's a pocket book. In the end, there's also a mentioning of the type and who did the art cover and stuff like that. So they put a lot of effort on this edition. World Editions is the publisher of Cocoon, a book that you should read as soon as possible, I would say. And of course, we also have to praise the translator Jeremy Tiang, who has translated this book. He has translated already about 12 to 15, 20 novels from Chinese into the English language. These two books I finished with. These were my number 10 and 11 books this year. I don't read so much and so fast like some other people. I give my excuses for that. The next two books that I'm going to tackle, to say so to speak, is I read one of the Edgar Brist novels. I got the second one from the library already, and this is Devil House by John Darnielle, and that's something I'm going to read soon. It's a different story. I think this is more like a real crime story, maybe even a horror story, because there's a man, he's a writer and a crime writer, and he is able to move into a house where something horrible has happened in the 1980s through the satanic wave that, not the 80s, what? Something horrible has happened there in that house. Yes, and the satanic panic of the 1980s. In Milpitas, California, a small town whose name rings a bell. His closest childhood friend lived there once upon a time. This sounds like the novel about a house. I read a novel about a hotel, and this one is about a house and some people in it. The other thing I'm going to read, back to the Women's Prize, 16 nominations came out last week. I decided to read 4 of them. Watch my reaction video. One of the books that I want to read is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. And I decided, since this is a brick book, as I call it, 500 and pages, 550 pages, and I think the audiobook is 21 hours or 22 hours, which is a lot. So I decided to do this both in audio and in reading. So going to the gym, which I will do about directly after this video, I will listen to the beginning of Demon Copperhead, and then I can read it here at home, and I carry on. So I listen and I read this book, and hopefully I can finish it fast. Not super fast, but fast. In Sweden, I talked about that a couple of weeks ago. The bokrea, the sale for books that happens in every bookstore in Sweden, is almost over. And some of the books now, they were reduced, lots of reduced books for sale, mostly in the Swedish language. As you know, I read English, so there wasn't much for me. But I wanted to get one of these books. And last week, I think in the middle of the week, they reduced the prices even more by another 50%. And so the bokrea became a super bokrea. And I bought the one that I wanted to have for the winner of the August prize, which is the Swedish, highest Swedish literary, with a Swedish booker, you could say. And this was awarded in 2019. It's also a brickish kind of book with more than 770 pages, but you can read it quite faster than Barbara Kingsolver's Demon Copperhead. This is called Usable by Marit Kapla, as people might call her. And this is published by Tech Publishing. I got it for only like $5 last week, the hardback of it. And this is a very special book. It's translated into English, so that's why I'm saying a few words about it. If you want to read this, Usable by Marit Kapla, it is available in the English translation. And this is a book about a small village along the Klarälv, the Swedish longest river in Värmland, which is right in the middle between the cities of Stockholm and Oslo in Norway. And it's an old town, an old industrial town, which was an old industrial village that was important during the industrialization of Sweden. People, they have closed shops, and not so many people come anymore. The younger people try to leave, the older people try to stay and survive. And well, the author Marit Kapla has collected the histories of people who live in that town or have lived in that town, and she made snippets of it, of this book, of these people, and published them as some kind of poem. You know, you could say these are poems that she made out of the life history of the people she interviewed. She interviewed hundreds of people and sort of immortalizes them by making poems out of their lives. And I show you how it looks like. Some of the pages are not so densely written. So I think you can read this in a very fast and quick time, and it's a sort of a monument for a village. Armgard to Pulitz, born in 1937. She says, "My sister and my brother-in-law insist that we are not allowed to say that he committed suicide because he didn't do that. They beat him to death. I can understand them. For some, it's a shame in some way, but for me it isn't. I think that he was courageous." That's all what's on this page, and I loved it. I love the idea, and I'm loving to read Usable, not now, but later this year. This was my reading of the week. I don't have so much different other things to say than have a good week. See you very soon with single reviews. See you very soon with a reaction video on Tuesday for the Booker in Translation. And please subscribe to the channel, write a comment, what you think, what you just read, and see you soon. Bye.